Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Got my professional chaos coordinator mug rocking this morning. Having a little cup of coffee with you. Got the obvious thing to talk about. I haven't been on in a minute. I was actually under the weather a little bit last week, and being under the weather, getting a little sniffles, a little sore throat is not the same thing anymore. You got to be careful. Now there's questions. You know, is this the cold? Is it the flu? Is it the big C? I don't know. Anyway, ended up not being anything. Just my typical seasonal change, sore throat. So all is well. So what is it? Wednesday. So what was that? Monday? Not sure if you noticed, but Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp all went down for like 5 hours. And people were freaking out about Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp all being down. You had the conspiracy theorists thinking that it was that they were doing something weird, they were purging something. You did have the whistleblower was tested. That whole story was breaking about how they know that it's bad for the brain or whatever. So that whole thing was breaking and not good. And so some people were considering that it must be a diversion. And then you had marketers that apparently just got all together like on a Slack channel or something. I don't know what happened here, but all of a sudden about midday, I started getting emails from every email list that I've ever been on in life, and some email lists that I don't recall that I'm on, unsolicited emails from everybody and their brother about how, well, when this happens, this is why you need to be, and yeah. So let's take that and seize the opportunity. So now the message of those freak out emails is not wrong. It's not wrong at all, actually. You should diversify. Just like a portfolio, you don't want all of your cash, all of your savings, all of your money or investments to be in high risk or to be in, steady, whatever. You want that diversified in case something happens to the market. Well, I mean, it's the same thing here, but but you should be diversified anyway, not just because if something happens to YouTube, if something happens to Google, if something happens to Facebook. And by the way, notice I am live on a couple channels today on purpose. Now I have a whole repurposing structure that happens in the background, so I end up on all the channels, but being a little bit more intentional about that today and just making sure that I'm going live everywhere. So you should be diversified anyway because your audience is different places. Your audience consumes content differently on different channels. So why not be there? And chances are that you're already creating content that could be repurposed, or as I call it, up-purposed very easily to a different channel and give it value. So today's inspiration is actually I'm going to share this. That's my website. It's Joe Pelusi. That's Content Marketing Institute guy. And then he's obviously referring to the outage the other day. And he is saying, if social media platforms were gone tomorrow, how would that affect your business? Make a plan. And I love the way that he puts this because he's actually giving it a hierarchy, right? And that hierarchy, number one, is membership. What he's really saying here is, do you have audience and is it captive? Right. So I think that we all know this, but we forget about it. Like we want opt-ins. We have forms on our website. We tend to only get excited if that person converts right then into a paying customer. And the reality is they're not going to, but very, very, very seldom. But you're still getting the email, and what you need to be doing is continuing to engage, continuing to nurture, continuing to remain top of mind with that person until they are truly ready to buy. But if you look down this list, look where Facebook fans is. Look where he has that clear at the end. So I get, this is interesting to me. So print subscribers, that's somebody that's probably paying for your content. So very, 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 very beneficial, very valuable. Membership, they have paid to be in your group. They've paid to be in your mastermind. They've paid to be a part of your organization, whatever that is, coaching, whatever. Newsletter, they have exchanged their email, understanding that they will get information from you. Print subscribers, as I said, podcast. Okay, so they're listening to your podcast. That's a very captive audience. Twitter followers. Now, I don't mess with Twitter, and I've been told recently that I probably should, because I have some pretty decent one-liners here and there. So maybe I should, but that's where a lot of engagement occurs. That's where a lot of one-to-one, some thought leadership, and growing your personal brand. Which, when things like this happen, I guess your personal brand is extremely important as well. YouTube subscribers, that makes sense. LinkedIn connections, yeah, that definitely. Now, it's interesting to me that they have Instagram followers up here and Facebook fans down there. I don't understand. I start to get kind of confused here where the value drops, where they're saying that there's no longer as much value. These all make sense to me up there. But I think the point to drive home here is, do you have audience, and is it captive? Now, this actually reminds me of, go back to the beginning of the pandemic. Anybody watching would know that I'm very involved with the Chamber of Commerce here in Cuyahoga Falls. And I love my chamber. Well, at the beginning of the pandemic, we had a bit of a problem because we were known as very active. And we were very active because we had a lot of events. Pretty much any given day, you could find some way to engage with the rest of the membership, whether that be an after 5, a gold mine, a coffee and contacts, whatever. And then pandemic happens, then you're not allowed to do those things. We're not able to do those things. And now it becomes, well, what is the value of the chamber? And we've spent the last year and a half trying to redefine that and make sure that there is value above and beyond eating a meatball at an after 5 and throwing business cards at each other. But it reminds me of that when you have all of your eggs in one basket. Like, what do you do? Well, are you on LinkedIn? Are you able to virtually network? Is that your only lead source? Is these live networking events, your BNI groups and your chamber groups and whatever? Yikes! You really should be omnichannel anyway, right? So this is no different. It's just a different medium. The other thing that it should be obvious, but I don't think that it is. Create content for your website that allows people to find you, right? So I don't think of social media necessarily as in the same way other people do, in that it's this robust, its own thing. I mostly, probably about 50% of social, to me, I look at it as just a distribution channel for content. Right. So, I mean, it's all content, but what I mean by that is we're creating long form, big, great content for the website. And then I want to break that down. I want to chop it up I want to up-purpose it into snackable, relevant bits that I can then distribute appropriately on social media channels. But if I'm doing all of that anyway, aren't I okay? Aren't I okay when Facebook goes down? Because it's still getting distributed on YouTube. It's still going out on LinkedIn. It still lives on my website as a long form article. It's still going out in email newsletter once a month, right? So I'm still engaging. I'm still able to stay in contact. I'm still able to educate to a buying decision. I'm still able to stay top of mind. I'm still able to create awareness, and I'm still able to shift demand for my product or service to me when the timing is right for my audience. So I think the lesson here is create audience on multiple platforms and maintain engagement with them on multiple platforms. Have a good Wednesday. See y'all later.